James Bond is about to get a new home. That's because Amazon is buying MGM Studios, home of 007. This comes as Amazon is facing another antitrust lawsuit. Washington, D.C. accuses the company of illegally controlling online retail prices, saying its business practices harm competition. And an alliance of over 25 businesses, they are teaming up against government tax hikes. This comes as home prices are going up. Tune in to Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's kick off with big tech, specifically Amazon. James Bond is about to get a new home. That's because Amazon is buying MGM Studios, home of 007. The nearly $8.5 billion deal announced Wednesday gives the e-commerce titan a massive film and TV library. MGM is one of the most iconic movie studios in history. Its library catalog includes classics like The Wizard of Oz, Rocky, and Legally Blonde. It's an arsenal of entertainment Amazon can use to compete against streaming rivals. An executive at Amazon Studios said the real financial value behind this deal is the treasure trove of IP and the deep catalog that we plan to reimagine and develop together with MGM's talented team. MGM, or Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, was founded in 1924. Aside from the Bond franchise and other famous movies, MGM also owns the Epix cable channel and makes the TV shows Fargo, Vikings, and Shark Tank. MGM marks Amazon's biggest acquisition since it bought Whole Foods for $13.7 billion in 2017. The deal is subject to government approval. Amazon's Prime Video faces a long list of competitors, including Netflix, Disney+, HBO Max, and Apple TV+. This deal comes as the media industry seems to be consolidating. Just last week, AT&T announced it was spinning off Warner Media to create a new company with Discovery+. But not everyone is happy with the Amazon deal. Representative Ken Buck saying he is deeply concerned about the acquisition. Buck says Amazon's revenue for the first quarter of 2021 increased by 44% to $108.5 billion, the company's fastest growth in almost 10 years. Adding it is critical that mergers and acquisitions involving monopoly companies experiencing tremendous and exponential growth are met with a greater level of scrutiny. Buck is the Republican ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee's Subcommittee on Antitrust, Commercial and Administrative Law. Speaking of antitrust, Amazon is facing another lawsuit. Washington, D.C. filed an antitrust suit on Tuesday. The city accuses the company of illegally controlling online retail prices, saying its business practices harm competition. Washington, D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine is suing Amazon, alleging the company maximizes its profits, while third-party sellers and consumers are forced to pay high prices. Racine noted that in 2019, Amazon claimed it removed its price parity restrictions, but in effect, it quietly replaced those restrictions with a similar clause. That clause says third-party sellers can be sanctioned or removed from Amazon if they offer their products for lower prices elsewhere. Racine also noted that Amazon charged high fees to the third-party sellers, as much as 40% of the product price. Racine wrote on Twitter, "We need a fair online marketplace that expands options available to district residents and promotes competition, innovation, and choice." Amazon spokeswoman told the New York Times that sellers set their own prices for the products they offer in the Amazon store. And Amazon said in a statement, Racine has it exactly backwards. Sellers set their own prices for the products they offer in our store, and like any store, we reserve the right not to highlight offers to customers that are not priced competitively. Amazon has been facing a slew of antitrust bills. Senator Josh Hawley introduced 2 antitrust bills, taking aim at big tech platforms earlier this year. One is called Bust Up Big Tech Act. This would ban Amazon and Google from running an online marketplace and selling goods on that marketplace at the same time. Hawley said in a tweet at the time, the practice allows Amazon to destroy its competitors. He wrote, "No one company should be able to control e-commerce and privilege its own products on the same platform and control the cloud," adding Amazon should be broken up. The other is called Trust Busting for the 21st Century Act that would target other antitrust issues surrounding big tech. Notably, it would bar mergers and acquisitions by firms that have a market capitalization of more than $100 billion. Amazon fired back in a blog post titled "Fringe Notions on Antitrust Would Destroy Small Businesses and Hurt Consumers." Written by Amazon staff, the blog post states certain flawed regulatory ideas rely on the false narrative that Amazon's interests are not aligned with those of the thousands of small and medium-sized businesses thriving as sellers in our store. It adds the opposite is true. Amazon and sellers complement each other, and together we create a better customer experience than either could create alone. The four big tech companies, Amazon, Facebook, Google, and Apple, have spent more than a year under antitrust scrutiny. In October of 2020, the U.S. House Judiciary Antitrust Subcommittee released a 450-page report. The report says Amazon has 2.3 million active third-party sellers in its marketplace worldwide, and that about 850,000 sellers rely on Amazon as their sole source of income. Lawmakers say Congress must ensure antitrust agencies enforce the law aggressively and fairly. The Justice Department sued Google last October, alleging violations of antitrust laws, and the Federal Trade Commission and 48 states' attorneys general sued Facebook in December. Now let's turn from big tech to businesses. An alliance of over 25 businesses are teaming up against government tax hikes. The group of 28 businesses are joining forces to fight against the Biden administration's proposed tax hikes. They are forming a new alliance called America's Job Creators for a Strong Recovery. The group says raising taxes on businesses and corporations will hurt the U.S. economy. The National Association of Wholesaler Distributors, one of the organizers leading the group, tells CNBC American businesses are just starting to recover from the pandemic. And the president and CEO of the group, Eric Hopland, tells CNBC, while Biden's infrastructure and families plans are popular among Americans, the popularity falls when people learn how it's to be paid for. Adding the record tax hikes the Democrats are seeking could not come at a worse time. The U.S. government is seeking to raise corporation taxes from 21% to 28%. The new taxes will go towards projects such as President Biden's proposed $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan. Hopland goes on to tell CNBC employers support a smart infrastructure to ensure America's 21st century competitiveness, but it shouldn't be used as a Trojan horse to enact record-high taxes on America's individually and family-owned businesses. The alliance plans to target key states with moderate Democratic lawmakers, such as Arizona. It is expecting more members to join the alliance in the coming weeks. And on the topic of rising prices, it is getting more expensive to buy a home. Home prices went up by the most in over 7 years in March. That's as more people rush to buy homes and less homes are available. The March Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index, released on May 25th, soared 13.3% in March on a year-over-year basis. That is the biggest gain since December of 2013. That increase followed a 12% year-over-year rise in February. And the Commerce Department said Tuesday sales of new homes fell nearly 6%. The median price of a new home sold in April went up 11.4% from March at $372,400. Home sales remain low while the price of lumber remains high. According to Bloomberg, there is a backlog of new homes sold last month, but awaiting construction. That number rose to 16.5%, which is the most since 2006. According to the Wall Street Journal, lumber prices hit $1,500 per thousand board feet at the end of April. That is an all-time record high. That rising cost in wood is also fueling a rising cost in homes. According to real estate insights firm CoreLogic, home prices rose 11.3% in March. That's the largest increase since 2006. President and CEO of CoreLogic, Frank Martel, said in a statement, home buyers are experiencing the most competitive housing market we have seen since the Great Recession. Adding rising mortgage rates and severe supply constraints are pushing already overheated home prices out of reach for some prospective buyers. But is rising home prices a bad thing? Some seem to think otherwise. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said at a press conference on Tuesday, for some middle-class families, their home is their primary source of wealth, adding the financial effects that some are feeling are positive. She goes on to say, that said, the increase in housing prices we've seen does bring concerns for us about housing affordability, adding we recognize that restarting the economy is going to produce some bumps. All this has some experts warning of inflation. Chief economist and global strategist of Euro-Pacific capital Peter Schiff told the Daily Caller News Foundation earlier this month, we are going to see massive inflation, adding people are going to be paying higher insurance. They're going to be paying higher property taxes. He warns Americans are going to see a big drop in their standard of living, a very substantial drop. And before we end, some interesting takeaways. Over half of the surveyed buyers, 63%, put in a bid without seeing the property in person. That is according to the real estate company Redfin. And Redfin CEO Glenn Gelman said the one that stood out the most to him was when one would-be homebuyer promised to name her firstborn after the seller. She lost the bid. But what do you think? Let me know below. And before you go, there will be no deep dive tomorrow, but there will still be China in Focus. Deep Dive will be back on track for Friday. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.